A looming silver shortage? Do we already have a shortage of silver? We know on a big macro level, much more silver is demanded every single year than the mining and recycling industries can provide. There's a big deficit in silver. But on top of that, do we have other factors that could exacerbate that situation? Do we have countries? Do we have companies that are making moves that could make the silver shortage even more severe and result in skyrocketing silver prices? Today, we're joined by Mr. Jon Little. He's got a couple very interesting points to bring up regarding what's going on regarding this moving silver shortage. Jon, welcome to Ron's Basement.
Hey, it's my honor to be here. Let's get right into this. This is a good topic.
Yeah, we got a lot going on in the world of silver. And what are you seeing in terms of companies in particular that you're finding interesting with the silver mining companies and the supply of silver coming onto the market?
Yeah, glad you asked that. One thing I made a point to do right when probably 2.5 years ago is I got on almost every, and all of us that are watching today can do this. You just start getting on all the mailing lists of silver and gold producers. You just fill out, it's always like one of the first things you see on their website. So I get press releases every day because I'm a reporter and I like to report on these things. And one crossed my desk just like maybe a week ago, and I'm not going to drop names because I don't want this to seem like pay to play. So I'm going to make up a name like Silver Star Mining Company. And what they're doing differently is they're actually like us apes that say we're going to stack it and we're going to hold it, you know, with diamond hands, we're going to hold on to our silver. And why are we doing that? Because if we convert our silver too early back to fiat, then that fiat is subject to the triple threat. And the triple threat are rising interest rates, inflation, destroying your fiat, as well as the third, which is that fiat has lost 97% of its purchasing power in really a quick time, you know, maybe the last 4 decades. So they're thinking on their balance sheet that since they're mining silver, they're now holding it. And we've heard whispers of this before, and you had some good examples with Mr. Newmeyer and First Majestic, and we should talk about that. But it's similar to OPEC, right, Ron?
Yep, it is. I came up with a name that maybe the silver mining companies could start an organization called OSEC, which would be the Organization of Silver Extraction Companies, right, where they could work together and at times, if need be, kind of manage the supply of silver going onto the market. But really, Jon, and I think that's actually, I believe that would be of benefit. And I've heard other CEOs mention that in the past from time to time. But really, does the supply of silver coming onto the market need to be managed, right? I mean, we're in this situation when we look into the future where there's just this massive imbalance between the demand side and what these mines can actually produce. I mean, I think right now, the price of silver is doing this artificial low price of silver is doing a pretty good job of managing the supply coming onto the market.
Right. But I think what it is sort of doubling down. Let's say, like every day I turn on the news to the fake news channels like Bloomberg, and I see that no matter what, tech stocks are always going higher. And it seems like oil and silver and other vital natural resources are going so dangerously low that we're at a point where this massive underinvestment in natural resources is going to interfere with all the things that our human innovation has come up with, the solar technology, the hydrogen fuel cell, all the things we've been talking about in aerospace. You know, Musk wants to launch 40,000 satellites so we have better internet that may be outside government control. That's a pretty sexy concept, but there's a massive amount of silver needed for all these things that make us, we can either live in the Stone Age or we can step up with our iPhones and solar cars I mean, electric EVs, hydrogen fuel cell cars. And I'm writing a story today about a fully electric self-unloading ship. I
Wow.
mean, yes, because there
Yeah.
are places where there's ports or harbors where there's a lack of infrastructure. You're not going to
Yeah.
be able to have the luxury of a bunch of forklifts to offload some of these ships. So it's fully automated, and they're in partnership with some of the larger limestone and cement companies. That these are heavy loads, so it's just basically a boom that offloads these ships, and it's all electric. So if we want to have this we don't want to thwart innovation by humans. We need to come up with better solutions. So let's talk about why it would make sense for the silver mine perhaps to be just bypass the COMEX and LBMA. Is that where you're sort of
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
with it?
Yeah, yep, yep. And I just want to point out that we're in this big macro environment when we're talking about silver specifically, where we have this shortage, right? There's a deficit. There's more silver that's being demanded every year. We know that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. And at the same time, companies starting to say, okay, fine, we know you need our silver, but the price that you're paying us for it is not fair. And I know Keith Neumeyer, I don't want to put words in his mouth, has said that many times. And okay, fine, if you need it so bad, but you're only willing to pay us $20 or $25 an ounce for this, then we're just going to hold it back. And if more and more companies were to do that, or are starting possibly to do that, that could create a very attractive environment for the silver price to go much, much higher, to get, price discovery, like true price discovery. Now, what you're talking about is even countries, from what I understand, getting to the point where they're like, we're concerned just about our supply of silver. So, and we don't really want to play ball with the COMEX and the LBMA anymore. And we're hearing these reports now of, like, for instance, Chinese silver refiners who've been screaming about this for years. Like, we need more silver. We need more silver. Bypassing Another factor here is them bypassing the COMEX and the LBMA, who've held this stranglehold on the silver price for decades, saying, you know what? We're not even going to deal with you. We're going to go straight from our Chinese refiner to the Mexican miner, and we'll buy our silver concentrates directly from them. Is it your understanding that that's occurring right now?
Yeah, this just broke, recently. It also shows that China, the largest user of silver, when you think of industry, especially, just think of who makes all the cars and solar panels. They must be running out of cheap silver if they're starting these talks with Mexico. And it also indicates how just important Mexico is in the geopolitical tug of war. We've had earlier videos talking about the power of BRICS. So BRICS is sort of devouring up a lot of silver monetarily and industrially, and the West is devouring the silver mostly industrially. Mexico is the top producer of silver, always has been in the world. Yet, as Tavi Costa tweeted out just 2 days ago, production has fallen off a cliff, 25% decrease in production in the last 2 years. So this does give miners sort of some leverage, and they're not happy with that price of today. It's like 23.70, I think silver is. And now there's new reports that the all-in sustaining cost of silver is approaching $24. And that doesn't count all the exploration that went in that the junior miner does prior to that, which includes their assaying, permitting, paying their geos. Exploration is an enormous cost. So, and then we got to look at the fact that the Mexico region is also subject to a lot of risk with environmental activism as well as labor activism. The Peñasquito mine, owned by Newmont, just came back online this year. So really, this is a huge, massive problem. We can talk
Yeah,
about, like, Keith has a
yeah.
solution to what
Well,
actually. Go ahead.
I want to interrupt you because you brought up a great point as we're talking about this, countries bypassing the COMEX and the LBMA, or the prospect of that occurring. The Mexico silver production decreasing, right? The world's biggest silver producer. And in the last 2 years, the amount of silver they produced has dropped by 25%. And all of that, and you mentioned this, but I want to draw more attention to it. All of that is happening within this bigger picture geopolitically in the world, which is the BRICS, right? The China, India, right, with their unbelievable needs for silver, finding ways to kind of transform basically the silver market, or price discovery within the silver market, and that the authority and the ability of the COMEX and the LBMA are beginning to be diminished. Is that possibly going on right now? I mean, is that a good way to sum up?
I could see a lot of those sort of middlemen just being rendered obsolete. Even with technology like blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
you can come up with use cases where someone doing hard analog title research may be unnecessary if the blockchain can trace the ownership of a home or who has a lien
Right.
against a property. They're called smart contracts.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to think that some of these places that have had really horrible reputations, like the COMEX, sort of merged with, I believe, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Those were separate entities, and then somehow they merged. Whereas the Chicago Mercantile Exchange used to sort of govern everything from soybeans and other commodities, including silver. So let's talk about that sort of vertical integration, though, from all the way from discovery to the coin itself. Isn't that what you were talking about?
Yep. We have, another person who has held back silver from the market in the past is Keith Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic Silver. This video is not sponsored by them, but it's just he's been a real, I would say, warrior for silver. He's talked about triple digit silver. He kind of coined that phrase a while back, and he's done something interesting with his company just over the last year. And I understand that it's pretty much been completed now. He's building his own minting facility in Las Vegas. First Majestic has long had a store where they would sell silver products to to anyone, their shareholders and anyone who was interested in buying from their bullion store. And it was wildly successful. The problem they had was they weren't minting the coins and bars themselves, or the rounds and bars themselves, and they were always facing a shortage of inventory to sell. So he said, you know what, I'll just build my own mint. So here's a guy who, like you said, it's almost complete vertical integration from digging it out of the ground, and now will be minting their own silver rounds and bars at this facility in Las Vegas. And it, by no means, from what I understand, will they be producing product from 100% of the silver that First Majestic produces. But that Keith said, like, the idea here is to on an ever increasing rate for us to process more and more and more of our own silver and get it directly in the hands of the investment community.
If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pinck, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pinck is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement.
Yeah, I think it's a good model. I think, to me, it reminds me of, like, if you can buy, we've all been to farmers markets, right? I mean, it's kind of nice. You don't have to necessarily buy your groceries at Giant Eagle or Smith's or Albertsons if you can buy it from the farmer. So it seems to be a seamless and simple solution. So, my hat's off to First Majestic.
And so we find ourselves in this situation where, let's see if we can sum this all up, where we have a silver shortage in the world. We have mining companies that are talking about holding back silver from the market. We have countries that are kind of bypassing the traditional route. And then we have other companies, other silver mining companies that are also bypassing the traditional silver market route through the COMEX and the LBMA and going directly to the end consumer and making silver products available. It feels like we could be heading into an environment on many different levels that 2024 possibly could prove to be a very lucrative year for the silver price.
That's true. And I think if you look at that too, what's going on is maybe the silver miners can play a role as providing money that competes with the Federal Reserve paper note in a way, right? I mean, why wouldn't you want to just do that? And if you can bypass the Federal Reserve, it seems like another option. Just like some people think crypto is an option. Anything that's more private or decentralized seems to make sense if you want more freedom, to me. That's how I look.
Yeah. Well, John, we did it again. I'm after speaking with you, I'm feeling better about the fact that I hold physical silver. I know that our viewer who's joined us has probably learned much from listening to you today. If they want to learn more about you, about your writing, they can go to thesilverindustry.substack.com because you put out interesting articles every day. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's every day. We're trying to show usually sort of a historical lens, a use case for silver. And we usually don't get into technical analysis because my theory is that silver can be smashed down in pricing. So PA doesn't seem to be the best way to look at things versus it's basic common sense supply and demand with sort of an irreverent tone.
Yeah. In the end, the market forces will prevail,
right.
And there'll be some temporary noise, as we both know, in both the gold and the silver, and the silver markets. And if people want to check out a community, you're also involved with the Silver Degen Club. Is that correct? Is that a good place for
we're
people?
in a sort of a joint venture with them. I would say that given my age at 60, I'm not a big Reddit user nor Twitter. I like to do sort of hard-hitting journalism, but my partners over there are the youngsters that are working very hard to open up the silver marketing to people that we say things like they may be interested in riding Harleys or bikers, skaters, rockers, crypto bros, gym rats, whatever punk rockers, anybody that's interested in having freedom, liberty, off-gridders, people like that are just haven't been really, we only have 1/2 of 1% stacking. So we need to open that funnel to make it a bigger funnel.
Make it available. Yep. And you've got Wall Street Silver, the Silver Degen Club. Those are both at Reddit and great communities. I mean, I love going there. I'm a little bit older myself, so I'm not a huge Reddit user, but unbelievable, interesting. Every time I go to either of those Reddit pages and scroll through, I either find something regarding silver that's very entertaining or educational, because people post a lot of great, and things get voted upwards, as I understand it. So the cream kind of rises to the top, and I've learned some great things there, and they're wonderful communities. John, on behalf of myself, on behalf of everyone, right, this other person who's joined us today, thank you. Okay, and hopefully we'll see you again soon here in Ron's basement.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, everyone. It's good to be with you.